Okay, so we have 7 types of charts that we'll be discussing this morning. The flow chart, pie chart, Gantt chart, waterfall chart, gauge chart, funnel chart, and bullet chart. Okay, so to start with, so we have here a flow chart. So a flow chart, this one is simply a graphical representation of steps. As you can see, there is a line. So it shows steps in sequential order and is widely used in presenting flow of algorithms or processes or workflow in different companies or in an organization. So typically, a flow chart shows steps as boxes of various kinds. So we have different kinds of boxes here and thereby connected with an arrow. So our arrow can be one-sided arrow or two-sided arrow. In other words, a flow chart can also help our respondent communicate to us, and we on other hand we will be able to communicate to them in the same process. And aside from that, it will help us in the documentation process. So a flow chart is very good for documentation, and flowchart is very helpful also in planning our process, in planning our implementation, so that there would be the visual clarity of the things that needs to be accomplished. Okay, another example here is pie chart. So again, a pie chart is a circle or a graph chart which will allow us to summarize a set of categorical data or displaying different values of a given variable. Or it can be used to present percentage distribution. This is very helpful in presenting groups of less than 7. So that's the optimum group or division of a pie chart, less than 7 categories, so that the division or the color representation is visible and obvious. So in our example here, we have drug trafficking offenses per drug. So as you can see, there's a very big representation for cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine, and crack cocaine. So it's very visible using pie chart to represent less than 7 or less ng mga categories. On the other hand, we have here our secondary metabolites: alkaloid, quinone, flavonoid, coumarin, lignan, terpenoid, steroid, saponin, sansone, and monoaromatic. So this is a lot of secondary metabolites. But as you can see, flavonoid has a very big part of the pie chart. So you can still have more than 7 if you have a very big chunk of data being represented, so that it will give a visual impact to the audience. Another example given here is the route of administration. So another one, it's more than 7. It's 7 pala. So it's 7, but the oral administration, of course, represents the very big chunk of our pie chart. Okay, so this is how pie chart is being made. Now, in your presentation of data later on in the PowerPoint, you can use pie chart in representing occupation, knowledge. You will divide it into poor, moderate, highly knowledgeable, or very good in knowledge. So so that the audience can automatically see the standing of your respondents. Okay? Now moving forward, we have here Gantt chart. So Gantt chart, I don't know if you have your Gantt chart prepared for research, but Gantt chart is another type of chart. It has horizontal bar chart. So there is a horizontal bar to project the updates or the progress of a specific timeline or specific project. Okay, so Gantt chart, generally, it is useful for planning and scheduling projects, or like for this one in our research. So a Gantt chart is very useful in order to simplify complex work such as our research. So it can help us track the status of the work that is needed to be done, or the work that has been done already. In other words, it gives us the progress or the actual um, actual task that needs to be developed in, or needs to be fulfilled or achieved in our research or in our project. So it will give us a reminder of the project deadlines or the deliverables that we are asked to comply. Okay, so the next chart would be the waterfall chart. So this one is not very common type of chart. So a waterfall chart is a form of data visualization that would help us or the audience understand the cumulative effect of the sequentially introduced positive or negative values. So this chart, again, will represent two different types of data, the positive and the negative value. So we will explain it with a figure here. For example, in this figure in the left side, in the fourth quarter, this is the, I think it's on the business portion. We have here the revenue. So this is yung nakita ng isang business. And then the red one represent decrease, or meaning it can be the expenses. Okay, so the cost of goods. So the decrease is color red. That means to say is the negative value that would be deducted to the blue value, okay, to the revenue. So that's very practical, because if you will see, kung asa kutob ang linya diri, the total green, doon na minus, parang gislice mo lang yung blue with the amount of the red, and this is now our gross margin. Okay, I hope that's clear to all. Now we have another expenses on administrative expenses. That would be a very small red here. We will just slice a very small part in the green, and that would be now the net income. So from the revenue, the gross income, going to the net income. So it's very easy to understand the total or the net income because of the representation made using the waterfall chart. So again, waterfall is a data visualization chart that will help, or that is used to project positive or negative values. So if it is applicable in your data, maybe you can do it, but mostly this type of chart is useful for monetary analytical purposes. Okay, so if you are handling pharmacoeconomics, then this one is might be applicable to your data presentation. Okay, moving forward is our gauge chart. So we have here gauge chart. So the gauge chart shows different visuals for our values. So it depends now on what type of data that you want to represent. It can be needles to show something like in the syringe, or it can be thermometer, or it can be a gauge in the, like in our fuel or in the vehicles with the dial. Okay, the value for each of these figures will give us a colored data range. So it will help us a visual representation of how far or how intense is our data is. So for example here, a progress chart. So a progress chart using a temperature gauge analogy will help illustrate progress with each aspect of accreditation process. So they use as a thermometer. So we have here specialty drug management. It's on 67%. Pharmacy operation, it's 75%. Customer service communication, 56%, and patient management, 66%. So for example, if we will contextualize it, if you are having cold chain management in your study, then you can present your results in a gauge chart using thermometer. Okay, so the next chart is the funnel chart. So we are very familiar with how a funnel looks like. So a funnel chart displays values as progressively decreasing proportion, and it will amount, of course, to 100% in total. So everything that goes inside the funnel, it will become 1 later on as it goes out at the bottom, and it will be amounting to 100% overall total. So the size of the area is determined by the series values of the percentage of the total of all values. So in other words, everything, all the components here in our topic, for example, it represents different areas, so it can be of different sizes. How much would impact our output later on? Okay, so the funnel consists of the higher part called the head, and the lower part is the base, or the lower part is the neck. Sorry, so we have the base and the neck, or the head and the neck. So for example, here in the left portion, we have awareness, interest, engagement, and action. So it has different colors in the funnel, and then what we put inside here is our variables, awareness from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest, and Instagram. And then when they go inside the funnel, what would be the parang the outcome in monetary values? Maybe that's the topic is about. On the other hand, this one is very familiar to us. This is the process of drug discovery. So step 1, discovery and screening. Step 2, lead optimization. Step 3, we will discover the ADME. And then step 4, the clinical trials. Step 5 is approval of FDA. And the last one, for example, this is our COVID-19 vaccine. So, okay. Now, another one is bullet charts. So bullet charts, class, these are variation of a bar chart. Okay, this is, it looks like a bar chart, but it has different parts. Okay, the bullet chart has the following advantages versus our gauge chart that was presented a while ago. Aside from it is space saver, it has the same purpose of a gauge chart, but it is less visually decorative. Okay, it is space saver in your presentation, and it can display multiple measures. Like you can display the target measure and the actual measure. Okay, for example, here we have employee satisfaction. So the actual performance is up to 70% perhaps, but the target performance marker is maybe 95%. So you can really see that the employee satisfaction was not reached. So maybe the company needs to do something to increase their employee satisfaction.